Hello, I am Minister Tina, and welcome to Poor Women of God's Ministry, where we encourage, uplift, inspire, turning pain into purpose one poor at a time. Today, I wanted to talk to you about grief, something that happened in my life that was traumatic and devastating and very painful. I wanted to talk about the death of my son.
We're here to help the family of Kaiwan Delvon Black. Kaiwan was walking down the street and was shot and killed. The incident took place 3 years ago around 10:45 p.m. on 1231 Bliss Street between East Outer Drive and Van Dyke, where we stand right now.
I just really just want justice for his death because it was senseless to me just to murder him and for no reason at all. He doesn't have a background that affiliate with the thug life or street life, and we just want somebody to come up with some unanswered questions and for us so we can solve this crime.
In 2014, I received a knock at my door that no mother or father should ever have to receive, and my whole world stopped completely. But God wouldn't let me stay there. My son was murdered September the 8th, 2014, almost 12 years ago. And that significant day plays a very important part of my life because that's my birthday. My son was murdered on my birthday. And I remember trying to celebrate my birthday a year after his death. And it was really hard to celebrate my birthday because I felt like it was so selfish to celebrate my life when his life was taken. And so I remember praying and asking God, how do I celebrate my birthday without feeling guilty, without feeling selfish? And God told me and reminded me to celebrate the memory, celebrate the joyful time, celebrate his life and not to celebrate his death. Because what I was doing was celebrating the death of my son every time September the 8th came around. But when God began to tell me to celebrate the life of him, I changed it and I began to celebrate his life. My son was full of life. He was a good kid. And I know that he was murdered at 22, but to us, our kids are still our children, our babies. And he was only 22 years old. He loved family. He loved playing video games. He loved hanging out with his friends. His last job that he worked was with me and my mother at the Holiday Inn hotels and suites. And he enjoyed cooking alongside of my mother. He was second cook at his job up under my mother. And so the impact that it had on my family is that um, we struggled real hard with this because we had no answers about what happened, why his life was taken. We just know that he was gone. And the police officers couldn't even give us answers about his death because when they went into the system, they said he had never been in trouble before. And usually they were saying how they can connect crimes with other crimes, that children had been in trouble before, young men had been in trouble before. He had never been in trouble before, and so they really couldn't connect his death with anything. And so I remember when they came to the house to tell me that night, they asked me a lot of questions, and I was numbed and in disbelief, and I could not believe that this was real, that this was happening, that I was hearing the news that I heard. But again, the impact that it had on my family, we were really hurt, we were really devastated, and we didn't know how we was going to move on. And at that time, my mother was living with me, and my mother was really hurt from it. But I was grateful to have my mother there at the time that it happened because I had someone to be with. I had a 7-year old at the time, and he's now 19. And as he was growing up, I also kind of like was being mama bear because I didn't want the same thing to happen to him that happened to my son. And so he would tell me some days, he would say, "Ma, what happened to my brother, I can't live through his life. And so you're going to have to let it go." And I learned how to allow him to become and let him do the things that he liked and let him, do the things that he wanted to do instead of trying to keep a close eye on him, watching every move, making sure nothing happened. Because when something that traumatic happened in your life, you worry about your other kids because you don't want the same thing to happen to them. But there were times where I couldn't do anything. There were some days that I could get up and press and push, and there were some days I couldn't do anything at all. I would sit still And I know that those parents out there who are grieving, I know you feel the same way I felt. Like, how can you move on? How can you live? It's almost like a part of you was taken from you. And I'm telling you, I went through depression. I went through the stages of being angry. Um, I went through all type of stages, disbelief. There were times where I would get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and his room was right by the bathroom, and he slept with the TV on. And when I walked past, the room was now dark. He wasn't laying in his bed, and I remember when one day when I got up to go to the bathroom and I looked in his room, and it just felt like somebody had hit me in the chest. And so I went and sat on my porch, and I just weeped and cried, and my neighbor heard me. This was probably like at 7 o'clock in the morning. She came out of her door and just held me in her arms. And so I thank God for the support that I had. But what I wanted to encourage you and how God got me through it, you have to get the support. You have to be a part of support groups, and they will definitely help you get through it. I remember going to support groups. I remember speaking at different events, going to nonviolent events that talked about parents losing children, and I remember doing prayers at different events. I remember talking at one of the biggest things that I ever had to speak at was ceasefire, and I spoke at ceasefire numerous of times, and I touched a lot of people's lives, and I thank God for using me. But as He was using me, I was being healed by helping other people. And so, if you go to these different things, and they're outlets for you, and you get to talk about it, and the more you talk about it, the more you'll heal from it. But you will never forget about it, or you will never forget about your child, because there's not one day that I don't forget about my son. But I remember speaking at ceasefire to the young man that I used to talk to that has, did bad things and have been to jail and committed some crimes. And I remember when I used to stand in front of them, the last thing I used to tell them was to see a casket in front of you. Picture a casket in front of you. And the room would get so quiet that you can hear a pin drop. Because I would tell them, close your eyes and see this casket in front of you. And as they were picturing that in their mind, I would tell them next, imagine it's somebody that you really love, somebody that you can't see yourself living without. I used to tell them to just imagine that it's somebody in that casket that if they left here, your life would not be the same, that you probably wouldn't even want to live anymore. And your heart is broken. And so I tell them to just picture that person in the casket, and then I give them a minute to picture a person in a casket that they really love. Then the next thing I would tell them is the person that they pictured in the casket probably was their mother, their father, maybe their child, maybe a cousin, maybe their friend, maybe their homeboy, maybe their aunts or uncles, some type of relative or somebody that they really love. Maybe it was their children. And I would pause again and I would tell them, the person you should have saw in the casket is yourself. And the reason why I wanted them to picture themselves in a casket, because if they picture themselves in a casket, then they will understand the hurt and the pain that we go through. And I tell them they should love themselves enough to not want to be in a casket or behind bars. Because if you're in a casket, you're not coming back again. And imagine how your family would feel. If you're in prison, you have lost your freedom. So they're both the same to me. You're losing your life because now you have no more freedom being in jail. And I used to tell them, I know that you think carrying a gun or carjacking, being in gangs, robbing people, it makes you seem like you're tough and it makes you feel like you're the man. But I used to ask them, why would you want somebody to be afraid of you? Why would you want that to make you feel like you're the man? What makes you a man is going out here getting a job, going out here taking care of your family, going out here showing your kids the responsible way to live, not with a gun in your hand. And so I used to tell them, I know you may say, I don't know where you came from, or who raised you, or your daddy was in jail, but I always tell them you don't have to be a product of your environment. You may not be able to change the environment that you're in, but you don't have to be a product of your environment. It may be harder for you to get out, but believe me, you can get out if you try. And so that's what I used to tell them, because again, we have so much crime still going on today, us killing one another, us shooting one another over the craziest things. And again, I always would treasure my son, the memories, the joyous times we had, the talks we would have, the times when he would just come in my room and lay across my floor and just, talk to me and kick it with me. And sometimes I used to laugh because he always told me, "Mama, you don't know nothing. Just because you're in church don't mean you shouldn't be up on nothing. You should learn what's going on in the world around you." But I thank God for the times that I had with him, and although he's not in this world, he is still in my heart. And so, those who are grieving over lost children, I will continue to pray for you as you continue to pray for me. And I ask that you will continue to tune in to Pouring Women of God's ministry again, where we encourage, uplift, and inspire, turning your pain into purpose, one pour at a time. Have a blessed day.